Well, let's call the meeting to order with the pledge to the flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I didn't bring any Halloween candy, sorry. But,
It's okay, Christmas party next month.
yeah, Christmas party next month. But anyway, we all made it through the trick-or-treat season, and now we're coming into the cold season where all the leaves fall off the trees, which half of mine fell yesterday, which means 9 park roads are leaves today, so there you go. Here we go. Okay. With that, Kelly Roll.
Mark Foltz.
Yes.
Mark Frazier.
Yes.
Francis Griffith.
Yes.
Kelly Schmidt's here. Troy Carmen.
Here. Okay. All right. Kelly's got the agenda ready. Any additions or changes? Looks good.
Motion to approve.
Mark made a motion to approve,
Second.
seconded by Bush. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. What do you got, Troy? Listening session for an LDFA.
So this is the first of our listening sessions for the I-69 Next Michigan Development Corridor Local Development Finance Authority. Really, there has been no major activity in the LDFA this year. We're just still acquiring funds to hopefully be able to use on our utility project coming up.
Okay.
Are there any questions from the public about the LDFA? Hearing none, that is completed.
All right, check.
So coordinates for what? What was the funds?
October 6th are minutes from last meeting. Everyone should have a copy in your box or on your table.
Motion to approve.
Mark, okay.
Second.
Second by Bush. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Public comments, public? Comments? Comments from the public?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're just talking.
Sheriff's report.
All right, it looks like last month there were 141 calls for service and only 18 of them were traffic stops. 17 car deers.
Really?
Not bad.
Almost in here today. I mean,
That's it, but if you notice that number, that total number is getting kind of back up where it used to be.
Where's the deer? Oh, car deer, 17.
But I mean, we used to be in that 140 or so a month, and it, dropped way low for a long time, so.
Okay.
People stay home.
All right, DDA, we did meet last
Come on,
month.
say something.
Mark. Oh, Cecil, Mark. Oh, sheriff's report, yeah, I got this on.
Uh,
Give the name on it. All right. Mark,
Well, we had a report on our audits. We haven't seen them yet.
had a report on your audit.
We haven't seen, well, more than one. They're back more than 1 year. We had to get somebody different because things weren't happening.
We changed horses.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have, still working on the job descriptions for the officers. And we were notified that the full-time employees, which are all ambulance personnel, there's 14 of them, have filed to unionize,
Oh, okay.
which the management, so to speak, is kind of put at a disadvantage. You can't talk to anybody about it.
Were they
I mean,
surprised?
of the employees.
Were they surprised?
Well,
Brenda?
when it happened, yes, but
Okay.
it's, honestly speaking, the vote is the end of this month, the 29th or something like
They
that.
vote between November 2nd and the final date of vote is November 29th.
Wow.
And
And they're mail-in ballots to the Michigan Labor Relations Board.
Okay.
what happens with it, I'm not sure, because there is some questioning going on by some of the people.
And you
So
say it's the full-time ambulance workers?
it can only be the full-time people. The part-time people and the paid-on-call people can't be involved, which was a little surprising because that union in the past has only represented firefighters, and not all the ambulance people are firefighters.
So is it the fire, what is their union called?
Yeah, IFFA or something.
Yeah.
So that's
It's
what it is.
International Fraternal Firefighter, or Fraternal Order of Firefighters.
International Association of Firefighters.
Okay, here you go.
The other thing is, if
People that
anybody
carry
knows of
boots.
any,
The boots.
particularly paramedics that are looking for shifts someplace, we could use them. And we're not the only ones. Dan Monroe was here and he talked about first off, our ambulance saved his life when he collapsed in his bathroom, passed out, and he had an internal bleed that he didn't know he had, kind of. But his ex-wife, which kind of surprised all of us, that it was an ex-wife, lives in Genesee County now, and he got to her house in his own car before an ambulance got there. There's 21 ambulance companies
Wow.
in Genesee County. And they're all having staffing problems. It's a widespread problem. And so there's times when not all 3 rigs are on the road strictly because we can't get the people totally.
So how does this, how did this, I mean, did like a certain number of them have to file for this to be put to a vote, or how does that?
30% of the full-time employees, 30%. So
John was involved in
So
the meetings
4 of them,
with,
basically? 4 of them?
4 or 5, yeah.
I mean, we had to hire a labor attorney.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
It's
really?
gonna- It's gonna cost us a pretty good chunk of
It'll
money,
probably cost us 10, 12,000.
you know.
Well, the cost could be if, get an unfavorable contract.
Well,
I mean, that'd be a
maybe
long-term
because,
cost.
you know, in essence, we were working on some things that, Guy was working real hard on, working out, trying to get a raise for all these people, and, that may become structured a little differently, you know, just because we're gonna have to take into account, we have part-time people, and we're gonna have to, you know, make their pay commensurate with the full-time people and so forth. So it's happening all over the place. I mean, there's enough of them that come into the meeting the last 3 or 4 months that they know that we aren't flush with dollars. It
Sure.
isn't. you
It's
know.
not bad, no.
This goes back to some other things that happened in the past, I think, but,
Yeah.
you know, it's just what it is, and we've just had to do what we gotta do, and that's basically just sit back and let it happen at this point until they make their votes, so.
Well, also too is that a lot of people don't understand ambulance or fire departments. We save money, so we pay cash for ambulances or cash for fire trucks now. That was our whole objective in 2005, was we didn't want to run to the township or the city every time we needed a rig. And they had to come up with a couple $100,000. Well, a lot of people see that pot of money and think that, well, you've got lots of money. Well, we're saving for the future. And I think that'll be the most difficult thing that we have.
And we've had increases this year in insurance. Fuel is a real problem. In fact, the fuel's gone so high that our guys on a weekend couldn't use the credit cards.
We
To get
maxed,
gas in the ambulances. Guy had to use the other credit card, the other debit card to get gas in the ambulances because we hit the limit.
Yeah.
Even though we pay it every month on time, it was just, there was a limit. We had to get the limit raised. All that stuff is, you know, there's a lot of things that are costing more money, you know. We all know that, utilities and everything else, so.
So is it a majority of them that decide this?
yes,
It has to be a majority.
yes.
And, you know, and there's another wrinkle in it for them, is if they approve it, they have to, out of pocket, their own pockets, establish a strike fund.
No.
They have to come up with the money to establish there's a formula from the union, they have to come up with a certain amount of money out of their own pockets to establish a strike fund. And,
Why do they have to have strike funds? It's illegal for them to go on strike anyway.
well, that's right, but, well, they don't call it a strike fund, but that's what it basically is. And, you know, and then we're a right-to-work state, so in essence, there's certain members that could say, no, I don't want to be represented by the union. They still have to be represented by the union in
They don't have to pay
action,
dues though.
but the union can bill them for their work. If they do something for them, if they work for them on a contract or a grievance or something like that. So I'm not sure they totally thought it through, but that's
That's what's coming down.
what's coming down.
That's what's coming down.
Well, I mean, this could be a problem.
Well, it always could be, but there's just not a lot, we're just not allowed to do much in this. We basically have to sit back and
So
just,
bottom line, you'll know by the end of the month whether it's a yes or no.
Yes.
Makes sense. even if it's a no, they may try again next year.
Well, normally, the labor union that represents ambulance drivers told this group 2 years ago that there wasn't anything that, I mean, they could really do for them because they already had
Everything.
everything.
They aren't allowed to go every year.
Hmm.
There's a waiting time before they can try to do it again. If they don't pass it this time, I think it's 3 years, but I'm not
Oh,
positive.
okay.
I wasn't at the meeting, John was.
Yeah, I'd worked with a gentleman before, Mike Clack, he's a labor attorney. Familiar with him?
Okay, anything else, Mark?
No.
All right, okay, let's see. All right, DDA, well, we did meet October 20th. The mayor of Perry was with us. Justin Horvath was with us, and we had all the members were there but a couple, and talked a little bit about the lighting upgrade, and that's a lot of money. Our share is about $60,000 for the lights. The city of Perry to connect 52 with
Our proposal was to go west of town and do, basically, so go to Signature Ford, and then there was a proposal for the city to fill in the middle, so the whole corridor would be
Ours is
lighted.
100,000, and they don't have the money, although they're looking at, trying to get funding out of your area.
This isn't gonna happen,
And
probably.
if they could, then she would look at maybe an alternative, She would like funding from the Shiawassee commissioners in that
COVID money.
COVID money for painting the water tower and or helping us with the water.
I'll comment on COVID stuff.
And so that is something that she, would hope that would happen and encouraged that it would happen. We're going to have a meeting, Sue and I, in January with Kristen from Consumers Energy to discuss this further. That's the goal.
Isn't part of their motivation, they've got some lights that are just not worth maintaining anymore?
No, they like the way it lit up on the
It's
east
a
side
lot
of
of,
the road.
it's a lot of money.
And it's a lot of money.
I mean, we have to ask ourselves the question, is it worth for them to light Signature Ford, or is it worth work on the water loop, right? I mean,
Well, that's our.
I have my opinion on it, but I mean,
But the board.
it's a lot of money. The price is what, double from
Just
when we
about, just about.
did it before?
And that's why we're gonna meet with her, the mayor will have some answers on why,
Well,
and of course, it's 26-week delivery, that's minimum on the light.
It took 2 years
She said
before, so I mean,
She said it'd be close to 2023 before we'd have the product in-house, probably. Anyway, that was that, and we also talked about the water loop, and the mayor was there to hear us out, and again, we're not gonna do Rose Boulevard until after we find out the water deal, what their funding to be used for the water loop, if at all possible, so that was that discussion. Zoning, we had a couple enforcement back finally in October, we got the October report. And who did we have?
There's 3 of them.
Was there 3 of them?
Yeah.
Perry Township. We had 1, 2, 3. Yeah, and these names have showed up before, but that's available for viewing here at the township. John, you're on.
Oh, okay.
You're on.
Since we kind of touched on it, commissioners have had a lot of discussion about COVID money. We have $14 million approximately, and there's more coming in many different forms. Initially, we were supposed to have rules and regs on what you could use it for. Some areas for smaller communities could use it for, the big communities couldn't. That was supposed to be promulgated and to us basically by October 1st. Well, that didn't happen, of course. Then they said December 1st. And then they said, no, it'll be now April 1st of next year. Okay, so that tells me that just before the election, they'll let you do anything with the money you want. I mean,
you're probably,
yeah, whatever they're going to do. Well, we've been trying to figure out what we could do for our townships, cities, villages, and our populace as best we could with some of the money. Well, what we've kind of been discussing now is each district, commissioner district, there's 7, would receive X amount of dollars, and then it would be apportioned out for whatever, working with those entities. So if District 7, which this is, my district, I would work with Woodhall, Perry, Perry Township, Morris, and maybe figure out what we could do with the funds. The amount of the dollars we're talking is pretty good. So, but there's a lot of things you could use it for, so I would certainly rely on each governing entity to maybe point the direction they wanted their portion to come, so.
And I would think for at least, for us, City of Perry and the Village of Morris, we're kind of in the middle there, but I mean, we have utility projects that would be joined between us and the city. We have utility projects that could be joined between us and the village, sewer-wise.
Yeah.
Because Morris has mentioned doing some lagoon work too and stuff, which ties all of us together. So I think for at least our half of your district, or we're more than half the population, I think we could all have a nice sit down and
Yes,
come up
we
with
could.
something.
I'll keep in mind too that townships, traditionally, their main thrust is roads, of course. I mean, roads are a big deal. But a lot of times townships don't have water sewer facilities, so to speak. I mean, a lot of our townships in this county don't. But there are areas like Woodall has a park. I mean, you can use money for park things. So we've started to discuss that internally, and I think might come up in the November meetings. If not, maybe December.
And it can be used for drains.
Yes, it can.
And I mean, we all have county drains.
Drains, sanitary drains. Sanitary drains is like Perry number 2. They discharge out of the lagoons in the spring.
But I mean, and the drain commissioner can do things, even though they can't be used for roads, the drain commissioner can do things where drains cross roads.
Yes.
That ties it in. I mean, we have aging bridges all over. I mean, I drive over 2 every morning, and I have to no matter what way I go. Where they cross a county drain, we could start replacing those and have no problem finding homes for all that money.
Oh yeah, all that money. So anyway, that's been kind of the discussion. So we'll see what transpires. Also, we've been working on buying property in downtown Corona. 2 buildings that were up for tax sale, pretty much. We pretty much got that in line. We brought it to the Board of Commissioners after we've been talking about it a year, and the Board of Commissioners decided not to do it. So, that's on hold at the present time. Maybe it'll be back on. But basically, the first floor of a new building would be used for the Veterans Office. Well, then there was discussion that the Griffin Home, that's out there on, State Road or Shiawassee Street in Corona, where the Pearl is, down near the maintenance buildings, that part of that's not being used, and we'll let the veterans use that. Well, that part where they want them to use is really a jail. It was work release, sleep there at night, and that's gone away. That is not going to be done in the future. But it's all gated. Also, too, is that the building needs a little bit of work, especially inside. The roof is good, but the inside of the building would need a lot of work, and there's no parking lot to speak of. There's anything that we do it'll cost money. Now, for the veterans activity, the veterans ground floor in a 3-story building, their money, some of their money is available. We had money set aside. We can do the project without COVID money. And I was I was surprised that the board didn't want to at least move on and see if we can wrap up the buying of those buildings in downtown Corona, then knock them down. And we had worked out a scenario with the gentleman who bought the building south of those buildings that we bought, which used to be, there's a tattoo parlor in there, and then he bought the Cavalier Bar lot with the liquor license, and we were gonna swap some properties so we could move a building that we build right on the corner, and then we'd leave an open area between the new Cavalier Bar, for a better term, that would be built out of those buildings, and have an outside dining area, and then we're gonna put a brand new front on all that, those buildings. It dressed it up tremendously. Now, it had been discussed here for quite a while. And when Corona put the road in, next to the Commissioner's Chambers, they put the road in with the concept that there would be a new county building on that corner, and several of us thought that was gonna happen, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen. Also, another thing that got voted down was a human resource person. We have several commissioners now that don't think we need a human resource department or human resource personnel. Well, I don't even want to go there.
Not a good idea.
Oh, because this individual, part of of course, was human resources. Sign people, get them all signed up, fill out the forms, all the things, background checks. I know that a lot of departments, especially the sheriff, does background checks. But coordination, and it might have been also too, we would have given permission to our county administrator to organize maybe our office a little different, Commissioner's office, to handle that new position. And also that person part of their charge would be to become a real good expert in retirement fundings. Because even though we have a new defined contribution pension, we still have the old MERS pension, and we'll have that for 30, 40 years. Oh yeah, so we need someone on staff who can sit down with personnel, talk to them, find out answers, know who to call, even though, maybe the companies are really friendly and everything, but you need somebody to really handle that thing. Someone wants to retire. What's the best avenue? What am I going to get paid per month? There's just a lot of things that if you had somebody on staff who could work with employees, bringing them in and on their way out, would really be a big, big help. Well, that got voted down, but then again, we'll revisit that in January. Okay, fine, but,
Why January? Just don't know.
How do you make a position like that work in the county structure as it is?
they would be, that would be their status as the human resource director. And that
But
would,
how do you, because you have some departments that are, truly departments like buildings and grounds, for example.
Yes.
That,
Yes.
the commissioners are in charge of, but the county clerk's office, at the end of the day, the county clerk's in charge of the county clerk's office.
Yes.
You can't have an HR person say, well, you're gonna do this, this, and this, and the county clerk said, no, I'm not,
Well,
and so that gets tricky,
What-
same thing with the sheriff and the drain commissioner, all that.
I'll back up a
Your
little bit.
paycheck's gotta come from somewhere.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from, right? The
Yeah.
human resource department.
Yeah. So, realistically, let's say the clerk wants to hire a new person.
Mhm.
That, she says, I want to hire, Jane Doe. And all the Board of Commissioners do is we affirm that she wants to hire this person as a person, we say okay. And that's state law. We have to say okay when people are hired. The Sheriff's Department, they'll say, well, we're going to hire 2 new deputies. They can hire their deputies. We just say okay because the budget has to be looked at. And then the paperwork, once the paperwork's all done, then if you had a human resource department, personnel, copy of that paperwork comes to our personnel department so as to keep track of everything, of that employee's pay periods and all those kind of things. Sometimes, I would say with the sheriff, sometimes there may not be everything that would be in the personnel department. Maybe some of these people work undercover and you don't really want their name out. So there's those privacy things. But you know, we're maybe the only county in the state that doesn't have a human resource department.
Were the department heads and the other elected officials on board with it?
Yeah, that was part, also, this last month, we approved updating our personnel policy, and we had a lot of elected officials and department heads that worked on it with commissioners and our county administrator. Realistically, the whole plan, the personnel policy had not been completely revised since 1984. Sure, there's been revisions of certain areas, but actually brought it up to modern law, had everything checked, put it out, you know, with what we're supposed to do. And really, a lot of it was pretty good for the employees, so.
Now, that only applies to non-represented ones, or does
Yeah,
it apply to?
but
I mean, because the union rules are gonna be different.
if unions have certain rules, but if our personnel policy is not reflected in that union contract, the personnel policy, of course, takes over. But of course, there's some things in contracts that might be a little contrary to maybe our personnel policy, but it's spelled out in a contractual form. Yes. So anyway, that's all that with the human resource. Again, would be very good to have staff to make sure that's all implemented, or it's working, or there's questions, you know. A couple of commissioners says, well, gee, our county administrator, he can do the hiring. He can do the personnel files for it. Well, I tell you what, that didn't go very far either. So then we try not to bore you too long. MERS. Okay. We had engaged MERS to do an actuarial study on if we bond, retire the debt, or bond, you know, to pay the debt. Basically, I'll keep it in the short form for you. They did the actuary tables. We contacted Huntington Bank. They have experts in this area selling bonds to finance the MERS pension, as long as it's around. And so like 40 years. I mean, I think Kelly hopes to live another 40 years. Yeah, yeah. And so Huntington Bank came on board with MERS, also another company that will help with the bond. There's bond sale, one of the two companies in Michigan that does it. They're Dykema and something or whatever.
Big one in Detroit, yeah.
Yeah, there's one in Detroit and one in Lansing, I guess. They were there, which we've been working with for about 6 months now. And what the actuary table said, right now, other than what you pay each year in pension monies, like $1 million, you know, from people who work for the county, you also have to pay $6 million more. So that's our bill for pensions is $7 million a year on a $17 million budget. Of course, we knew this was coming. With the bonding, it would reduce our payment down to $3 million a year for 18 years. Now, what do we say? If we basically made 5.35%, we would save, doing the bonding, $13 million a year if the return averaged 5.35 for 18 years. As you go up percentages, and the average is probably going to be close to 8%. I mean, we could conceivably save $26 million of what we would have paid if we kept the old system for 18 years at $6 million a year. It's a very conservative estimate. They have to do that, of course, since it's pension money. And it has to be approved, of course. And these groups have done this with probably 40, 50 times in Michigan now already.
So you're talking $3 million a year payment for 18 years. It's on $50 million roughly. Is that what you're bonding?
Yeah.
So that isn't. You're getting a decent interest rate. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
it's true. And actually, it isn't going to be 50 million. After we negotiated with MERS, it went from 60 to 42. What can I say? And, but anyway, but that really protects those individuals who have a MERS pension and are working still, grandfathered in, and also those who are on the pension. Now, realistically, if there's several really good years in a row, which we have had here, then our debt, the money made from those internally from that money could even be better return than we have. I mean, it may come back and instead of taking $3 million out of our treasury in the county, we may end up a couple million a year after 7, 8 years, or 1 million after 10, 12 years. So I mean, it's sort of a win-win. It certainly takes the problem out of a down economy if we bond and we.
So if you bond and do it, does that mean, okay, so you bond it and the 50 million basically makes it funded, correct?
Yes.
So, or 42 million, whatever the number
Or
is.
whatever the number ends up. I mean, when we go to sell the bonds, there will be another actuarial table taken at that time based on our information, and that number will fluctuate a little bit.
So that makes it fully funded. If it doesn't
Fully funded.
if it doesn't perform well,
The
does that mean
county,
the county's still on the hook?
yes, they are. Absolutely.
So that bonding works as long as
It works.
everything chugs along, but if MERS invested in something dumb and it goes bad, we're still on the hook.
MERS in 15 and 18 had minus income, minus investment
So
policy.
if we're assuming 5% returns and we end up negative, we've got to make up the difference still.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Now,
That's why you don't do pensions.
yeah,
We have to do that.
defined benefit pensions.
We have a problem with this.
Yeah. So that's being discussed. Of course, we had a couple people that want to keep the status quo no matter what.
Sure.
Well, the state treasury says, you're not. I mean,
Come up with some big
you're
bucks.
not.
We're gonna have to come up with some big bucks.
Yeah, I mean, we could go to the voters and say, we can keep MERS pension and pay that $6 million a year, but I need 3 mils more from you people.
Yeah, right.
Instead of 5.552, I need
Have to
8.552.
pay retirees.
I mean, it's huge, folks. It's mad.
But I mean, that is if it came down to now, I mean, you guys have been able to move the new hires off, correct?
Oh, yes, since January 1st.
But I mean, that was always an option. You could put it as a ballot question and let the people decide, and
Yeah,
if the people
Yeah.
say no, the people said no. I mean,
Yeah.
that's always, it's
Yeah.
always a hazard when you put things on the ballot, let people
Yeah.
decide.
yeah. So anyway, that's moving along. We hope to have that all in place and ready to go by March. Because we want the low interest rate. I think we all know where interest rates are gonna go here. I mean, I've lived long enough I had 23, 25% interest rate for floor planning of automobiles. Yeah, that's why I'm poor today.
Yeah.
So, anyway, some good points. Blue Cross, a year and a half ago, we hired 44 North, and 44 North helps us negotiate our Blue Cross Blue Shield rates. We do not pay them. In state law, Blue Cross Blue Shield has to pay them
Oh,
directly. It's kind of different,
Yeah.
okay? This year, with our program, we saved approximately $850,000 off our health insurance bill. And that basically the same bennies. I mean, it's just it was structured differently. And actually, we hadn't had a real good restructuring of our Blue Cross Blue Shield programs probably for 10, 12 years. Next year, it'll be more. We're negotiating that contract right now. Most areas at Blue Cross Blue Shield is looking at 15 to 16% increase on your premiums. The county's looking at probably 5. So that's good too.
Yeah.
Now, with that, freeing up of some of those funds. We've certainly had a very difficult time hiring certain people in the county, nurses, attorneys, sanitarians. Sometimes the sheriff has a tough time finding deputies. So in October, we raised all non-reps 4% in the county of, non-reps. We'd also done a lot of work with the unions and signed some contracts, and they have raises coming too. We're also looking at a 2% raise in wages in January 1st of next year. Hopefully we can start to attract, even with those raises, we'll still be $10,000 under what Memorial Healthcare pays. Sanitarians we can get will be $10,000 less than like Saginaw County pays, but Chavez County's a pretty good place to work too. And then we actually we moved up a whole grade for the prosecutor's department. That was $10,000, and he still hasn't had anybody apply, and that makes us competitive. But right now, lawyers are hard to hire for prosecutorial work. So we've hired back several retired lawyers to work part-time in prosecuting cases. So there's a lot of really different things going on right now. And as we lose personnel, I know that Sheriff's Department's going to have some people retire again this year. Those got to be replaced. A lot of times, it's been very difficult to find people with experience and to bring them in, and but a lot of times it's up to elected officials to find their own employees, so on and so forth. But anyway, that money we're saving with the Blue Cross Blue Shield, actually we're kind of just putting it back into wages. So it'll make us it won't be even, still be at kind of the low end of the scale, but a lot closer to the middle, which helps a lot when you hire people. Talked about that. COVID monies. Hey, I think I hit everything. Yeah, I think.
Okay, any questions for John?
I've been there a lot lately. Yeah, any questions?
You were talking about the building for the veterans, and stuff, they're in the Surbeck building now? Correct?
Yes.
Is there, I don't doubt that they need more space and everything else there. Where does the money come from to build a new building when we have all this other stuff going on? We have the pension problem, we have the jail problem and all that. We're talking about building a building. Where does that money come from?
Well, presently, the veterans have 2 millages.
Correct.
I'll call the first one
They have the PA 214 millage, and then they have a county.
Yes, a county millage. The P4,
PA 214.
that's this
Yeah.
1906 sailor's pension. That money is for veterans.
Correct.
You don't build a building with that. You don't do anything with that. That's for
Indigent veterans.
Yep. And then the second millage, that can be used. It's better used for administrative buildings, renovations. That fund has $2 million extra in it. Some of the discussion about building a building next door is that the county would put up the 3 stories, and on the first floor, the veterans would finish that off the way they wanted it.
Oh, well, yeah.
And there's people at the Veterans Administration who come in, you're going to want this color, and you're going to want to do it this way or that way, fine. Whatever they want to do, and they would pay for it. The second story would be a conference room, auditorium. We really don't have any place in the county to have what we call a big meeting. That would be a room that would sit a lot of people, 100 plus. So when you have things going on that you got to have a lot of room, you could have that. Third floor would be offices. Again, a lot of discussion about that. Third floor would have been the public defender's offices. They got 5 attorneys now. I mean, there are 2 less, and there's only 3 of them right now, but there should be 5. That's all state funded. We fund about 110,000 of that $1.2 million budget. That's basically funded by the state. They pay rent. State pays rent on our area. And we have money for that basically in our tax delinquent fund and our savings. Tax delinquent fund has grown quickly. I think, yeah.
But I mean, the county would have to front a substantial portion of a new building. And I mean, you couldn't use the veterans fund to do all of it.
Oh, no. That isn't the point. The point is, okay, your portion is you fill in the empty space between the 4 walls.
But I mean, is there, I guess it just seems like, I mean, if like the jail is in such desperate need of repairs and stuff, shouldn't that funds be there and we live with
Yes.
the offices we have?
Yeah, and again.
I mean, I'd love a new office too, but it
Yeah,
works.
I know.
It works.
2 things. I mean, some of the aspects of COVID, we haven't had a lot of people in the jail.
Really?
I mean,
Really?
yeah,
Because
Sheriff
they get
says,
COVID, they're out of the
we
jail.
don't have as many, prisoners. They have peak times. I mean, people get arrested or
Okay.
whatever. But, yeah, and we really haven't settled on, the jail needs work. We're putting a new roof on it. We're gonna spend $500,000 on a roof. $250 this year, $250 next year on that building. Have to. I mean, it's leaking.
But I
It's a
mean,
bad
at
spot.
the end of the day, we voted on this, at least in the last 20 years, twice, right? On a jail. I mean, and the people said no both times pretty soundly,
Yeah.
so I mean, we kind of had the same discussion. This was when, Coscarelli was our commissioner that one term. I mean, when they were building the new drain building, maintenance building, and something else, and that was right after we laid off the sheriff's department, and it just, I struggle how this all ties together, right? I mean,
Well, yeah.
we didn't have the money to have a night sheriff's patrol, but we could build a new building for
Well,
buildings and grounds. And I'm
everybody-
not saying we didn't need a building,
No,
but I mean,
I'll say this too. People forgot what happened. Laid them off, then we had a Headley override, which was successful.
Oh,
They
yeah.
gave us 800,000 more, and we basically dumped it right back into the sheriff's department.
Which is good.
Yeah, I mean, we had to find a way to fund road patrol.
right.
We did.
True.
I mean,
But we're not at the
Yeah.
levels we used to be.
no. And you know what? Tax revenues have come in well. I mean, everything, the SEV's done this. That could all stop tomorrow if we have a huge
Well,
inflation.
I would argue we are in a housing bubble. Maybe not as bad as we were, but we are. But I mean,
Absolutely.
I guess my take-home point is that, I don't know. I'd be careful about just going out and, building buildings and everything else. I mean, why not kind of get some of those core services back?
I think that was the main aspect of, let's slow down this veteran idea. I mean, we also, we talked about this. We could, if we have more room in the Griffin home, do we remodel that and put the sanitarians out there? I mean,
Sure,
And then give-
then you could let the veterans have
have
that
the
area
third
across
floor.
the road.
I mean,
Yes.
that is something too. I think it'll work its way out. We'll sit on it to the end of the year, and then we'll try to work up something, so maybe we can do something next summer. Finding people to work, finding people to remodel, the cost of materials. I have a son that's saved a lot of money for a house, and he wants to buy one in Perry, but you know what? He's living with us. He says, I'm just gonna wait, Dad, about a year, and all that, the spiral will really work in my favor, and he's probably right. When I come, I like to discuss it, because sometimes people have some good ideas, or, maybe they're fine right where they're at. Yeah, so, yeah.
Well, you do have to have a decent-sized meeting room that we've learned in the last 2 years that we have to have for things, just like we're using this room for Sessa because
Yeah.
we can spread people out, we can't where we would normally do the fire hall. So there is the need to have something that you can have.
No, the Survey Building's an awful meeting. I mean, the Commissioner Chambers is an awful
Kind
room
of chamber.
for meetings. I mean, it's so small. It's like when we used to meet in there. I mean, it worked fine for a meeting this size, but when we had 70 people, that didn't work.
Right.
That's why we meet out here. And
Of
now
course.
nobody come.
When I have somebody that's antagonistic, I like them close.
Oh, yeah,
I
right.
like them real
You
close.
or see their eyes, huh?
Yeah, no question about it. But anyway, yeah, so there's the needs and there's stuff, but the veterans are, they're just crammed. And a lot of times they just don't have enough room, but they keep doing their stuff. I mean, that's not end of the world, but we're trying to alleviate their problems. I can't remember anything else. I've been writing stuff down because we've had,
Oh, we talked probably longer than we should have, but yeah.
that's all right.
Okay.
Oh, you're just getting started.
Library.
I did this last
Library,
night.
yep.
Yeah, you could have heard me last night if you come to NTA.
So, the library is motoring along like they normally do. You can see in the notes that I guess this is an annual funding, is a little over $8,200 for the tablets and those kind of things that Jamie talked about in the last meeting, to have the connectivity for them and all that kind of stuff. But there is some money coming from the federal government for part of that. And they are renovating the Perry branch, and they're talking with the city about the city doing the outside of the building, so I don't know where that's gonna be.
So the library board's paying for the inside?
Yeah.
Is that using some of the money from?
I think so. They're gonna have to completely close the library, and I suggested to them they might wanna talk to TDS and see how much space TDS, because they're only using half that building next door. That would be the easy place to put the books while they're doing the renovation, rather than, I mean, the city hall, they could find a room there too probably, but that's gonna require vehicles and trailers to move all the books and stuff. Perry's got quite a bit of stuff where they can roll it down the sidewalk for. So that's kind of their thing right now. They ran into a problem. There's a number of people that work for them running the libraries that have reached the maximum they can be paid under their current structure. So they've increased, or they had a proposal at the last meeting to increase the amount of money that people can be paid so that they could stay competitive in wages to keep people that are doing a good job in the libraries. And they increased Jamie's salary, and I think that's probably,
Yeah,
Well,
Jamie's pretty good, and I'm sure she gets courted all by much bigger libraries all the time.
yeah, but this is kind of her community. She lives.
It is,
She
but-
lives in Woodhull, but I mean, she's still close by, and she grew up around here, so I don't really think she's really planning to make a move.
Not planning, but somebody weighs enough money, you gotta stay competitive.
Yep, and I think she's more than paid for herself.
Yeah.
She's kept the
She does a-
libraries relevant.
She does
That's,
a great job.
You know, so, that's the library.
Okay. Thanks, Mark.
Yep.
Troy?
Trade quarter, well, you filled in for me and you didn't have a quorum, so,
And we just talked.
right. So that's that.
And they did have a nice TV set up with a video of the lady taking the minutes like Kelly.
The main thing is, and there may be a special meeting on it next week, is they're looking at a revised study by this consulting group that works with railroads. They came out with a first proposal that was really, really expensive, and everybody was kind of turned off from that, so they've come up with a much scaled down proposal. Basically, this company is a consultant that works with railroads, trying to perhaps coordinate some sort of a transloading logistics facility, likely on our half of the corridor anyway, somewhere Durand, Flint, somewhere in that area, which would be
Perfect.
great for our, great for the
I
corridor,
got
and
something to tie
great
it
for
together.
us. Yeah.
Yeah. They're out of Chicago.
Yeah, I think she's in Chicago.
Okay, and that's that. Mark, SCDP,
We had a program by the Remedy Project.
the what?
Remedy Project.
Remedy?
What the Remedy Project basically is they will help train companies to help be community active for their employees, that kind of thing, to help make it a better place to work. So that was theirs. There was a lot of discussion about the Ford battery plants, that Ford claimed
Oh,
there was no property.
Tennessee or something?
Yeah, they went to Tennessee. They claimed there was no property in Michigan that was enough property. They needed 3,600 acres to put a facility in. And they needed utilities. Well, gee, Project Tim property is 4,000 acres.
Oh,
And the utilities are there and the expressway's there.
right.
So it was looked into, Justin looked into it, and what it came down to is Ford never contacted anybody in the state.
About.
That's right. They never went to MEDC or anybody in the state to find out the project, and the whole reason is Tennessee is throwing a lot of money at them to put those plants down there.
That's why.
But those plants could have gone on the Project 10 property. And it would have fit, they would have had all the space they needed. There is other companies right now that are expressing a lot of interest in that property. Because there is a limit of what property with the expressway and utilities available, there isn't all that much big chunks of property left. I mean, there is a lot in downtown Detroit, but nobody wants to put their plant down there, you know. So,
Sure.
so that's actually fired up, and Project Tim is still out there. They're still trying to secure all the money they need. Whether they ever manage it, who knows? But since the property's there, and the good thing is at this point, Vernon Township and the city of Durand are back talking to each other, so.
That's good.
Yeah, that was kind of a bad thing for a while.
Well, good. Okay, Mark. Anything else?
Nope.
And now we're going to our local planning commission.
We forwarded something that's on the agenda later about the Spartan fence piece. And we discussed the Slocum situation where they were given a permit by MDOT to put a driveway in, but they have to put the driveway in a specific spot, and they can only work on the driveway. They can't do anything else because they don't have a site plan approval or anything.
Or especially this permit.
Right.
Necessary
Yeah.
to do the
So,
work. Okay.
so there was a lot of discussion when you look at the map for that piece of property about, there's an easement that seems to go through the center of the property, and we're pretty sure that's the utility easement for those poles, so.
Oh, well.
So that's
Issue.
an issue for them. There's really not a whole lot we can say one way or the other on that situation right now, because they haven't brought anything else that we have to have any recommendations.
They're gonna spend a lot of money and have a lot of frustrations. That's what they're gonna do.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's kind of what we thought too, but the other one we'll discuss later in the agenda.
Okay, well, that's an update on that, and, let's see, what else?
And we're working on the master plan. Beth's got quite a bit done, and
Oh, good.
excuse me, right now we're waiting, we've been finding out about how to update our tables and stuff. A lot of that information I found out after the meeting is on the county website, where we can
Good.
pull it from that. But, she's moving forward with that pretty good. I'm not sure we even have to hire an engineering firm for what we're doing with it.
no, I don't think, I mean, we have to send out the notices and stuff, but we can do that. We don't need to pay,
Yeah,
take
$4,000
$4,000 to mail a notice.
to have something that doesn't get updated like they planned anyway, so.
All right, well, good.
We're still waiting on census figures, so
And you're
we've
meeting,
actually,
you're meeting this month.
No, yeah, we met in,
Last month.
October, and we're not gonna meet in November or December unless there's an issue that we
Right.
have to meet about.
Because of Thanksgiving or.
Thanksgiving, we need the census data to finish it and stuff,
Which is the end
and
of the year.
So unless
So
there's
you're
a,
not gonna meet?
well, that's the plan, but we're waiting to see
if
if
something
there's.
comes in, we're not gonna cancel it until we know if nothing.
Yeah, somebody better call me.
We will.
Well, that's
why I asked.
We're not gonna
Sandy and
be
Larry, I
working.
kinda made it plain to them, they gotta get on the ball about it.
Yeah.
Sure. Whoops.
Because that's, that's, everybody shouldn't be going to you, that should be those two that communicate with you.
Sometimes they call me and I just give it to Kelly.
But that's,
It's a good, I said, that's a good Kelly project.
but we're only statutorily required to meet 4 times a year, so
Right.
we've
They're not
done
gonna
that.
sit in
But
closed.
our list shows.
Right, we
those
did
meetings.
that.
We have to post
discussed
it, we have
that.
to post it to cancel it.
Right,
And
that's
if
right.
people are
We
watching
understand.
this and want to know about our website, it's brand new at Perry Township. And you can check it out on Microsoft. Kelly's going to have total control next week. They're going to be trained totally and will be updated. It may not be updated right now, but when you go on it in a couple weeks, it'll all be updated. So we've had questions from the public, calling one yesterday, and we were behind it, and the company that developed it for us will be in, and then we'll be trained and be able to access that. So if you see July, the others are there, but they're not loaded yet, so we'll get that to you just as quick as we can. Troy, financial report and pay the bills.
Alright, you got your bills list in front of you, would be our 4th revenue sharing check of the fiscal year,
How much was that?
$62,000. I mean, it was it was a really good one. I mean, if you look at our budget today, I mean, one more check like that will make our budget, and we've got 2 more to come.
Good deal.
So,
We're
you
looking
know,
good.
it's
Smile.
chugging along.
That'll help pay for the parking lot.
You know, right?
And pull the shrubs out.
Yeah, I didn't get there.
All right.
So other than that, it's our bills.
Motion to pay the bills.
Mark's gonna make a motion to pay the bills, and Butch is gonna second that motion, and Kelly, with that, we need a
Mark
roll
Foltz.
call vote. Yes?
Mark Frazier.
Yes.
Francis Griffith.
Yes.
Kelly Schmidt, yes. Fraser Lee.
Yes.
Okay, Troy got a little correspondence he wants to talk about.
Oh,
Just
yes.
briefly.
You should all have a copy in your box. We got our letter from the state that we were officially approved for our American Rescue Plan Act money, and the check is in the mail. So,
Wow.
hasn't come yet, but that's basically what it says. The long
Between 300,000 and 400,000, we'll see it when we get it, we'll get it when we see it.
34,000?
345,000 is our total
Between 300
amount.
and 400,000.
So some of that goes to Morris, or that's
No,
ours?
that's
That's
ours.
our
345,406.
Thank you, Troy. Okay, so that's it.
Middlebury got their share.
The electric bill will be paid, consumers, and no problem there. Public comments, again. Any announcements, Kelly?
No.
Unfinished business, none? Mallory Building Contractors, you want to start talking on that, Mark?
Yeah, we looked at that, and we really felt that it was a good use of the property. There's nothing, their setback issue was with the east property line. They just need to be able to put the building closer to the property line. It's swamp behind it. So there really isn't anything, it's not like there's a house backing up to it or something like that. We didn't see it was an issue. And we also discussed, and the gentleman from Spartan Fence was here,
Okay.
and they basically, anytime that they've done something, they've done what they said they were gonna do. So we didn't feel that there was an issue where we needed to make lots of stipulations or anything.
And they're really just going to build the building code and then sell it.
No,
Oh, no.
no, they're,
Oh, I'm
at
missing.
this point, yes,
Oh.
they've changed their mind.
Oh, great.
They are probably, they do their own gates. They build their own gates.
Yes.
They're probably gonna move the production of their gates to the new building
Wonderful.
because they're out of space in the
Great.
the last new
Well, that's
building.
new information. Okay.
You know,
But
so,
nonetheless, it's an awkward shaped piece of property because it's got the curve there and stuff. It's a perfect criteria for a variance.
I agree, I agree.
I need a new gate, so
Yeah,
thank
they
you,
were-
that's good information.
So,
If they didn't do it, they wouldn't be able to unload a small semi.
Right, that was their problem, they needed enough space to be able to get a
Okay.
truck in the front, plus they had parking, and so that was good.
All right.
I'll make a motion that we concur with the planning commission and send a recommendation to the
I'll second
ZBA.
that. I'll second that motion.
Okay.
All we need to do?
Yeah, voice it, it's fine.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, all opposed? Okay. All right. We got a letter, Troy, and Kelly, from Tony Newman on our yearly drain assessment, special assessment 2021 for our
Correct.
county drains.
So it's, and our township at-large portion is $7,028.10.
So we
I'll
need a
make a motion to pay that.
Troy will make a motion.
Second.
Second by Mark.
That fits in our budget, right?
Yes.
Yeah, our budget's
Roll call,
15,000.
vote on that, Kelly?
Francis Griffith.
Yes.
Kelly Schmidt, yes. Ray Parmalee.
Yes.
Mark Foltz.
Yes.
Mark Frazier.
Yes.
Check, check. And then Troy's signing checks, but he wants to talk about the bank.
So banking update, I mean, we talked about, that I was gonna, explore and get some other proposals. I received no other proposals that were anything better than what we had. So, MSU was the one, I talked to both MSU and Horizon Bank, and Horizon's the one that took the branches in Corona and Owasso East there from Huntington. MSU, the problem is they're just not set up for our kind of banking, and the fees we were gonna pay were gonna be close to $2,000 a year because of the number of transactions. Because they charge by the check, X amount per check and X amount for cash at branches and all that, and with property taxes, we handle thousands of checks, and so that, I told them, I said, that just isn't gonna work.
No,
You know,
yeah. So which bank?
That was MSU.
I know, but which bank do you prefer?
Well, for now, we're gonna just stay with Huntington.
Just stay with what you.
Yeah. So I did talk to the people at Verizon, and at the county went to Verizon, because of course they bank at the Corona branch and stuff. Really nice people, nice small bank and everything, but it's no more convenient than driving to a Huntington, so.
I just like the fact that it's a small bank, but.
Yeah, no, I do too, and I think I may look at them for like some CDs, stuff like that, to move it around, but for our main deposit accounts at this point, I'm gonna keep it, I'm gonna see how Huntington plays out and stuff, plus we have boxes of checks and deposit slips, that I don't wanna throw away anyway, so. But, Huntington is also going to, they're gonna meet with me when I have a chance. They're gonna, due to the volume of our business, they are gonna be able to set us up for a remote capture. So I'll have one of those check scanning machines, so the only time I'll have to go to a branch is for cash. And I've been using the Williamston branch, just because here it's closer to Wasso, and, I met the manager the other day, and we talked, and, she was a chemical person that came over and stuff, so. The Owasso branch is massively overwhelmed, and a little chaotic, so that's why I went that direction. So that's what, we're not doing anything different for now.
Okay. Cool.
Any more questions or comments? Which,
Nope.
Kelly?
Nope.
All is well? We
Yep.
are ready
Motion to
to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Second.
Okay, Troy and Butch, all in favor?
Aye.
This concludes our monthly meeting.